lot of tickets been sold. I don't know where everybody's at, but we're just going to enjoy the day. So next up is Jerry Lar, and I'm really grateful that you people showed up today because this is real important. Okay, Jerry, you're up.
Thank you, Sal. Good morning. Thanks for coming. We're glad to have you here. And Ray does a great job of explaining all that. And what I want to do today is go back in history and see if we can't change history in the Republic of Texas. Because everything that's happened from recording of history has always been a centralized government with people at the top making decisions for everybody down below. And that's one way to do things, but we don't have any freedom when they do that. They're in charge of us. Can everybody hear me okay? And it doesn't? Yeah. Good. And we really don't have any freedom. And I can go back to when I was a kid in the 50s and 60s, and you wouldn't believe what we could do then compared to what we can do now. You didn't have a license to drive. If they caught you without a driver's license, they'd tell you to go get one. But they couldn't do anything to you because they didn't have the power. And our whole place is eroded. Our Constitution, for the American Constitution, again, everything is historic. History has a way of repeating itself. And it always is the same. The Roman Empire is the greatest republic. And they'll tell you that we are, because we've been here over 250 years almost now. Well, the Roman Republic was 700 years. And every republic always ends up in a dictatorship and crashes. And when Rome crashed, the Dark Ages. It took 1,000 years for people to get back to where they were. So we're at a point right now where in America, we have to look at what's taken place and we have to better understand it so that when we're here in Texas, we can do something new and different. My vision is something that really, Texas has always been a place everybody on the planet really wants to come to. They don't know it. And when they get here, they'll tell you, I got here as fast as I could. Always, always, always. So I want to be kind of tedious here because I'm not sure everybody really understands where we are on this planet. And everybody, every country on the planet right now is tied into paper money. And that's one part of the evil program. That's what our founding fathers in America wanted to get away from. And that was a big part of the Constitutional Convention is that if anything involves paper money, we're not going to play. Well, then Andrew Jackson, you remember him, how he took on the second bank of the Texas Central Bank. And he had a war with them, and they almost killed him, and they almost killed the country, but he won. And then the country flourished again for another 50 years until we came in again with paper money. So what we want to do is make sure that we don't repeat these mistakes in history and that we have a government that doesn't go back and we're going to try to take a frame of a 1929 Model A Ford and try to put a new Lincoln Continental Drive train in it. You don't need that whole frame. It's not going to work. Today, we can do half the frame, put twice the electronic and the gear we got in the car just drives like magic. So we've got a chance here to make history in the world, make Texas the envy of every other country on the planet. So I want to set just a little stage. I've talked to people about the national debt, and everybody, oh yeah, I hear it's pretty bad. So I want to just give you a little relationship. If I were to take a $100 bill and make a stack, how high would the stack be before I had $1 million? 43 inches. Okay? How high would the stack be before I had $1 billion? How many of y'all been to see the Empire State Building? You stand down there, you look up at the Empire State Building, and you build 1 stack, 2 stacks, 3 stacks. Now you have $1 billion. 1,000 million is $1 billion. Now what happens if I have $1 trillion? I can't stack them that high because the stack would fall, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them on edge. And I'm going to make a stack. And I'm going to go down to Brownsville. And I'm going to put them on the highway as the divider line along the highway. Stack just like this. How far do I have to drive before I hit $1 trillion? Oklahoma City. It's a long way. So if we take our national debt that we owe, the government has a funny thing they do. They have 2 accounting systems. They have a cash accounting system, is what they tell us. And then just like we do, if we have a business, we have to have an accrual system. Well, they keep the accrual system, and that's for their private use. So they tell us that our national debt right now is $17 trillion. Well, that's true. That's this year, that's what it is. But they don't tell us about the other stuff that adds up to another $120 trillion. That's what's due, and it keeps adding up because of Medicare, Medicaid, and all that. So the point is that we're not only morally bankrupt in the United States, we are financially bankrupt. And the most powerful person in the United States is the president, right? No. Ben Bernanke. Because if I owe Ben Bernanke $17 trillion and he tells me to go jump in the lake, I'm going for a swim. Absolutely, because they do what they tell them. If they want more money, it's crazy. So we have to understand that and know that if we use a traditional solution, that's what's going to happen. So when I knew I had this talk coming up several months ago, I decided what I need to do is really get into economics and start going on learning about economics. And some neat material was given to me by, Steve Berryman over here, and I ended up reading about a dozen classical books going all the way back to the Greeks. My head was swimming, and it really makes just perfect sense is that once you understand the free market system, without having anybody of us here, anybody take the Hillsdale economics course that was on free from Hillsdale? No? Well, I did. And then I took some others, and I thought, well, what's happened here is all these things are made up to support the fallacy of paper money. The boom and bust cycle. Well, that's natural. No, it's not really natural. It's when the government overinflates and underinflates. We have the boom and the bust. So they're stealing from us all the time, and we don't know it, but that's the step we don't see is the inflation. So if I'm doing a free market system, there are no interferences, and people build, they expand, they save, they invest, they expand, they build, they save. You don't have the big roller coaster that we have, where everybody gets broke. We have a recession. We got a 1986. We have a 2004. We don't have that all the time. So what do we have to understand to do that? We have to look at our system and see, by the way, our whole debt that we owe in the United States of America, and Texas is the same proportionally. So this is, if I stuck those dollar bills on edge like we did all the way from Brownsville to Oklahoma City, what I'd have to do is I'd have to hop on a plane, fly to Quito, Ecuador, and then start stacking them around the world, 24,906 miles. How many times? 30. 30 times. if I am earning tax-wise, the government earns 3.2 trillion a year and spends 4 and owes over 200 trillion. Now, anybody, all economics says that's no problem, it's the government. No. It is a problem because every time that they owe more money, they take away more of our liberty, more inflation, and our property. So Texas is going to be looking for setting a new standard. Texas could become a tax haven. It would become the freest land on the planet if we all go back and learn about law, but not the law that the lawyers teach us. Because if you ever gone through the Constitution, 4,500 words, how many times do you see lawyer or attorney in there? Well, while there was only two legs of government, the legislative government, the Congress and the Senate, they had the first act where they started putting the law into the government. Legislative Act of 1798, which was twice the size of the Constitution, 8,500 words, in which now the lawyers took over. In the Constitutional Convention, 61% of the attendees were lawyers. Okay. In our early history, lawyers were outlawed in the country. They were banned. They couldn't work. They couldn't be paid. They were outlawed. They were sent away. So, having gotten those two little points out, let's look at a simple philosophy of life, because we have to go to school and be brainwashed to understand today's law. But law always, every constitution in America, all the states in the Constitution say the rights are derived, the laws are derived from the people. Well, what rights do I have to give them? If I'm with you and you have money in your pocket, can I come over and take your money? If I take your money, have I offended you? Yes. Do I have the right to take this money? No, I don't. Okay? If I don't have the right to take your money, how can I delegate that right to somebody else? Does that make sense? If these rights come from the people, well, wait a minute, people don't have the right to do this. So if I don't have these rights, all we did was we listened. We were in grade school, and they told us this stuff, and hey, just like the Tooth Fairy and Santa